Alright folks, welcome back to the channel. This is David, and it is time for another movie review. This is the 6th of December, Saturday night. It's around 7:41 p.m. As I begin making this recording, I'm at the Love's Travel Center in Loxley, Alabama, parked in the semi. So just so you know, this is a review from the road, and I want to talk about Sisu. I finally watched it. Now, just to give you my little backstory for why I wanted to go ahead and see this, something about the trailer for the second movie, Road to Vengeance, made me really want to see it at the theater, but I'm afraid I might have missed it. It's still at one theater here nearby, but I don't live nearby. I'm on the road, and it's not at the theaters anymore where I normally go at home. So yeah, I'm afraid I missed out. But anyway, I just rented the first one on YouTube. Just got finished watching it a few minutes ago, and it was, well, you know me, it's time for me to talk all about it. Who knows how long this video is going to be, but yeah, that's the quick backstory for why I watched the movie. At first, when it first came out, I thought, oh man, that looks like crazy. When the first trailer for the first one came out a couple years back, I was thinking, man, that looks nuts. I'm sure it'll be quite a trip. But they're just, as much as it was an obvious throwback to just like some hard action, just like a crazy, from beginning to end, like a bloody action movie, like set on the edge of a war zone, it looked like, with a man who's been victimized one way, 50 ways from Sunday, and just he has lost his family, and he's wanting to be alone out of the wilderness. He just seeks solitude, find some peace. And you see that in that trailer, how he's digging in the earth, and he finds a nice little cache of gold, and he has all these gold nuggets. They didn't have this in the movie, where it said the nearest bank. I remember that from the trailer from like 2.5 years ago, whenever it was, or like 4 years ago, whatever. That's been a while, hasn't it? I remember in that trailer, and I haven't watched it again since then. It's been years. I remember that part where it said the nearest bank is like 700 miles away or something like that from where he is in Finland. And but one thing this movie did have, just to get it cranked up, was a quick little territorial geography lesson. The Russians insisting that the Finnish disarm the Nazis as the war is ending, and so there's war still happening. And the narrator, he talks about a man who has chosen to leave the war behind for good, and that's where the narration stops. You don't hear anything more from the narration in this movie. And right off the bat, I want to give this movie big props for just how good it looked. The quiet scenes of the landscape of, I want to call him Sisu, but let me say his name in the movie. There's a couple little parts in it where they're speaking their mother tongue, these European languages, with no subtitles for yours truly to know what they're talking about. And even as I was watching it, I was thinking, I kind of like that, just that little bit of mystery, of you get to imagine what they're saying. I kind of like that. You can only imagine what they're saying. You could probably guess what they're saying, considering the circumstances. That only happens a couple times in the movie. Once when Eno, played by Mimosa Walamo, is talking to like a checkpoint soldier. Was that Russian soldier she was talking to, or was it Finnish? I couldn't get that part, where she shows up with the women that the Nazis had kidnapped, and we're basically, there's a strong illusion that they're being put into sex slavery. They're going to be, who knows, sold, bartered, who knows, spoils of war, slavery, traffic, whatever you want to call it. Like they've been taken, like kidnapped, right? And it's after, I'm just going to call him Sisu, because Atami, played by Jorma Tomali, very impressive actor, this Viking looking guy with his striking performance and his He really captured the spirit of what they talk about the word sisu means. Determination, don't give up, and everything's been taken from you. They did a good job of portraying that spirit and capturing it in this movie, just in my opinion. That's why I'm liking this movie. I give it my thumbs up for whatever it's worth. I enjoyed the flick. It wasn't overly long. This is a tight hour and 31 minutes, and I really appreciated that, especially since I'm watching it in the trailer. But I easily could have enjoyed this movie in the theater, and I wish I had at least caught the second one, but I'm afraid I've missed out on it, which that's what having a job where you're always gone from home all the time will do. You can't do anything. Anyways, back to what I was saying. It looked great. All those landscape shots of the horizon, and he's just all alone out in the wilderness with his dog, who survived the ordeal. I thought for sure these evil Nazi characters are going to kill his dog, which they actually do try to lure him into a trap at one point in the movie. But he actually lives. He lives. which was very cool. I'm trying to think. It just gets right into it, and I appreciate that about this movie, but it just didn't get. One thing that's a little bit less than satisfying is, even though you have like some sound effects, some brief, not even imagery, because it's like a flashback without actually showing you something from his past, and the way 2, 3, 4 times in the movie he has this gold band wedding ring on his finger, which is, it's about his life that he lost, his wife, his children. That at least the narration tells you that, even though it doesn't show anything. It tells you, instead of showing, how in the war he basically lost his life. He lost his family, and they call him the Immortal because of how he lives through all this stuff and has like over 300 Russian kills. How he just was bloodthirsty after a point when he fought in the Winter's War, and how that was good enough in my opinion. Just that little bit of that little exposition dump from the character Wolf, played by Jack Doolan. I'm looking at IMDb right now as I talk. When he tells the tank commander Bruno Heldorf, played by Axel Henny. I've never seen any of these people before that I can think of, and it just goes to show some of these movies that are being made overseas. I'm thinking especially of that new movie, Troll 2, how it's getting a lot of success. That some of these European flicks are really, they're getting more into my vernacular over here because it's their great success. And this was just for an hour and 31 minutes, you ain't bored. You ain't bored at all if you watch this movie. And I was thinking, it might be kind of, maybe it's going too slow here at the very beginning, but his acting, Jorma Tamali, I'm not going to say out of me his name. I'm going to say Sisu, because he is Sisu for all intents and purposes. He's the one who embodies the spirit of the word that cannot be translated. When he has this emotional scene, and they clip it a little bit, like it's several minutes apart, where he's like going into an emotional state when he, at first he finds that one little flake of gold, one little speck, whatever you call it. It wasn't a nugget, it was a pellet of gold, just in his, trying to get some fresh water just at a stream. And he goes, ah! You're like, man, he's like rejoicing, But then, less than 3-4 minutes later, when he's still just living, being alone, there's this great still shot of him at his fire, off by himself in the wilderness, when you see these warplanes flying overhead, and he's not even looking at them, he's just still looking into the fire as the camera pans around him, and you just think to yourself, it's a neat little scene, because you're thinking to yourself, this man is trying to escape whatever he's done. And you can see when he, of course, they have to have this one shot, nude, see his buttocks. Can't really approve of that, obviously, but it's this showcasing all his horrible scars. Like, he's been blown open several different times and like sewn back together like Frankenstein, surviving some pretty nasty, gnarly wounds. And that's all that scene was really showing you, just to give you a taste of this fellow. He's been through it. He's been through war big time. And when that one scene at dawn, not dawn, dusk, as he's looking at the fire and the star, maybe you can even see a star or two. The sky isn't really dark yet, but when those planes fly overhead, and it just kind of pans around him until you see his face, he's just looking in the fire. You're thinking to yourself, it's like this movie does a great job in that scene of making you, the viewer, think this man, he just wants to escape something. The movie hasn't shown you what all he's done, but you can see he's done a lot, he's been through a lot, he just wants to get away. But here it is, these planes are flying overhead, and then shortly after, maybe it's that night, he's looking off into the distance, and you can see, it kind of reminds me of Saving Private Ryan, that one scene where in the distance you can see these, it's like reflections in the sky of bombs dropping. That is what is in this movie. He looks off into the distance and he can see that there's a bombing raid happening. He can't really see it, but it's that far away. The right there on the horizon, he can see like the glowing flashing of what has to be bombs exploding. And you're thinking to yourself, man, it's just like this guy just can't get away. He just can't get away. But he's insistent upon it. And I just want to praise his acting a lot. Jorma Tamali. Atami, I can't say these names, so I'm just going to say Sisu. He's on his horse. He has that emotional scene where he's on the verge of tears. He's holding it back when he finds this big cache of gold, and then it's like, and the music is so good with it. As you're thinking to yourself what this means for him in his life. It's like whatever's going on, whatever his past is, whatever his future is, he's not. It's just like, it's like hope. Somehow he has this hope in his mind now. It's like all I'm thinking as I'm looking at this guy from the year, they're transporting you back to 1944, was it, 47? It says it right there in the beginning. As the war was ending, and I'm looking back on this and thinking about the changes in technology and how there were no phones. He's on a horse. The German army, those European armies were still, they weren't even fully mechanized yet. A lot of them are still on horseback. Not all, but some. There was some of that still going on. I'm thinking about how different the world was at that time, and I'm thinking about this man. And of course, if you think back on that time, a man in his position or anything close to his circumstances wouldn't think anything about just having to toil away the way he is until he eventually gets so old that he can't do for himself and death comes. But looking back, like from the future, from where I am, into this old story, and I know it's at least largely fictitious. They're making up a story here about this legendary thing. But I'm just thinking about the circumstances that a man like that would be in. I'm thinking to myself, if you came across that gold out there, especially after everything he's been through, it's like this is going to change his life. And I do mean really change his life in a way that people today, like myself, if I came across, I don't know, $10 million worth of gold that I just suddenly found on the ground, yeah, it would change my life. But the hope that it would give somebody in that context would just be, it's just blowing my mind to think about it. It's crazy. Then again, I might be jumping the gun here. I don't really know that. Because at the end, and again, spoiler alert, when he finally gets to the bank and he walks in to this bank full of people dressed, I mean, even though there was a war going on, even though there was a bombing raid, and some of the buildings outside are bombed with smoke coming out of them, they're still trying to carry on as best they can. He's war-ridden. He's all muddy from falling out of the sky into a mud hole. I think he has his dog back with him at that point. Anyway, he walks in at the very end of the movie, and he's recovered his 2 big pouches of gold nuggets, and everybody's just stepping back like, what in the world is this? Or else they're looking at a guy who clearly has been through it, and he means business, and he's filthy, and he's got a huge pickaxe, mind you. He dumps all the stuff on the desk in front of this lady who's kind of taken aback, and I can't help but think, man, these people are so well dressed. They're dressed better than anybody would be today in this country anyway. And I'm thinking, he's speaking to her in a language that they're not giving me the subtitles to, and I need the subtitles. So I'm thinking maybe I might be jumping the gun about the kind of life that maybe it would afford him, because it's kind of mysterious. I don't know what he intends to do with this wealth that he has now. He might not be planning on keeping it to himself. Maybe they get into that in the new movie, Road to Vengeance. I don't know. That's another reason why I got to watch it now, to find out what came next out of me, Sisu. I'm the more I think about that one point, it's like I'm curious. What would you do with if you had lived that life, and then you suddenly had some money to burn? It's cool to think about. I'm really curious about what the new movie has on that point, so I got to watch it. But okay, let's get back to it. His first encounter with the Nazis, right? This was kind of neat, and it's my own anger management I got to work on. I can't hardly watch an action sequence in a lot of movies these days without getting like so viscerally like into it. I end up missing part of the movie thinking about like, what if that were me in that situation, and then I get sidetracked in my mind instead of just being able to just look at the story fully and absorb everything that's going on the screen. Don't get me wrong, I just watched the movie. I know what happened, and what I'm trying to say is, especially in this context where there's been so many movies about how evil the Nazis were, and this commander, this one guy who has his tank commander hat on the whole time, Bruno Heldorf, who plays Axel Henny. I'm just going to say Axel from this point on. This dude had the evil, better than you, evil gaze that they gave him a bunch of times in this movie, especially early on. He had this down pat. Granted, that same gaze, the more he dealt with Sisu throughout the movie, it wasn't quite as stern or sure as it was in the beginning. The more he realizes he's dealing with something that's basically like supernatural, because this man seems to have a problem dying. He refuses to die, Sisu. He lets him go when he's on the horse, and I thought, that was a curious point about him. I thought about Axel, because Wolf was going to shoot him in the back after he rode past all of the Nazis, grinning all menacingly and what's in the bag, old man? But then Axel stops him and says, he's going to his death anyways. He's riding to his death anyways. And that would have been all she wrote. That would have been it, except for when Sisu, and that's what I'm going to call him, gets to the checkpoint where these other Nazis are. And this is the part you see in the trailer with the knife through the head. These guys just would not leave him alone. They're the conquering heroes in their mind. They're the, who knows what soldiers who invade countries are really thinking. I guess you just got to ask each one individual to find out. The point is, they're the top dogs. They're the ones with the guns. They're the ones with the military authority over these people that they're oppressing, subjugating, killing. It's like, this old effer has gold. Get on your knees, old man. They're going to execute him. And then he fights them all off, kills them all. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is crazy. This is nuts. One gripe, and I'll go ahead and call it a gripe. I wish certain things, even in the fighting stuff, had been given a little bit more time to breathe and just a little bit more tension had been allowed to build up, I think it would have made it better, because they do the gory, gruesome stuff with the when Axel turns around and has his soldiers, who have to obey their commander's orders, that's the way it works, walk one by one, and then he has 2 by 2 going up the side of the road, landing on mines, and then the one guy looks up into the sky and Sisu has thrown a mine on him and he blows up in gory fashion. I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. This is like an exhibit in obey your orders here. They put the women that they kidnapped, they use them as like cannon fodder, as basically human minesweepers, tying them together and making them walk in front of the tank. And it really finally runs home just how evil these guys are. And before I miss out, I gotta say one of the touching things, which again it's thrown into the mix with the gore, when he's looking all menacingly. I'm talking about Axel, thinking that you're thinking, is he letting him get away? What's this about? The thing is, he knows there's a minefield there, and Sisu doesn't. And so you don't see it, and he's looking all menacingly over the horizon where Zisu's just gotten away from him. And then when the horse steps on the mine and blows up, I'm thinking, surely that would have hurt Sisu so horribly too, to have a mine explode under you. But when he comes to and embraces his horse, you're thinking, it's like you're there with him when he doesn't cry, but he has that anguish face, like he wants to cry because he's in so much pain, like emotionally, like his companion out here in the wild, his horse that he depends on and who he cares for, is dead. He's hugging what's left of his head, and you're just thinking, man, this man has suffered so much, and you feel for him. It was a good scene, even if it was covered in blood and guts. So then, what happened next? I only just watched the movie a minute ago. I'm going to skip on to the boat scene, because this is where things were getting nuts. I'm thinking, okay, come on. Is this man like cursed, or does he have like a spell on him? Is he actually immortal? I know this is like a legendary mythos we're talking about here, but can he breathe? Can he breathe underwater? No. I'm glad the movie actually didn't do that, because when he made it into that stream after escaping from him, when he knew the dogs were going to get his scent, and he managed to get the gas all over him to cover his scent, and then he made it into the water, and yet again Axel is sending them into get me a boat, go kill him. And I was like, man, you're sending all your men to die one by one. You're not going to have any men left if you just kill them all, killed one by Sisu. It was a neat trick when Sisu landed in that water, and the weight of the gold in the bag drug him to the bottom. I thought, that's very cool. I like that. That's a neat little effect there. But here's where it gets nuts. Well, I tell you what, it's a toss-up between two things that were the most nuts to me in this movie. It's like, okay, this is crazy. The movie just went crazy. When the one guy gets out of the boat, when he's commanded to go down and kill Sisu in the water, and Sisu swims up behind him. That was some really good looking shots, by the way. It's like how deep that little lake is. Again, the cinematography was just spot on. When he slits his neck from behind under the water, I'm thinking, what in the world is he doing? Is he a vampire? No, he's sucking the water out of the guy's neck, out of his mouth, or whatever it was. Oh my goodness. I was like, as the blood is coming out under the water, he's getting the air out of him so he can keep from having to put his head up above the water, because they're going to shoot him when he rises up. And then it's like that was crazy. That was crazy to me. But here's Axel still sending more men. The one guy's like, nah, I'm done. He's in the boat. He starts paddling away. And sure enough, Axel's like, 1 more meter and I will have you shot. He's telling the guy, Wolf, desertion is punishable by death. And so he has him shot. He has his man shot in the water. And I'm thinking, man, this is nuts. It was a good thing in the movie as far as, like, are these just cold-blooded killers? Do they not have any rational motivation or anything? At least there's one conversation in the tank between Wolf and Axel when Axel says, like, Wolf wants to go home. He wants to get to Norway or wherever he said and be done with it all. And Axel's like, when we get home, because this was SS stuff. This wasn't just the German army. This was SS doing their thing out in the great wild there. And he says, when we get home, they're gonna hang us all. It's like he can see into the future. There's gonna be a death sentence for the things that we did, or we could go get this man's gold. And so at least there was that. At least there was that. It's like, okay, you understand where he's coming from now, even if he is a villain. You're like, okay. And in that one scene, he basically cursed himself because you're not going to go up against sisu. It's like you curse yourself when you do that. It's like you're not gonna, things aren't gonna work out for you. You're gonna get ground into dust the more you beat your head against this brick wall trying to kill this man. Okay, here it comes. There were two things in this movie that I was like, this is just too nuts. And it wasn't even Zisu's. I was thinking this is Rambo First Blood Part 3 when he's closing up his wounds using gas and pulling shrapnel out of him and digging bullets out of himself and searing it with the heat and stuff. And it's like, man, this is a gory movie. That's all I could think of was Rambo 3 when he had to shut his wounds so he doesn't lose too much blood and get infected and stuff. That scene right there, when they had hung him, and Axel, smart Alec, again, it goes to, this movie slaps you in the face with just how evil the Nazis were over and over again. It's like he has this one scene where Schutz, played by Ani Tamali, and my goodness, does he have a young photo here on IMDb. If you look this up, the cast, look at how young he looks. Schutz, played by Ani Tamali, he was the guy with part of his hair, part of his face over on the left side, like blown off by whatever in the war. He was the tank driver, and he has this scene where he like shows respect. He's got this like, he's somebody who still has some kind of a remorseful side to him, even though he's having to obey the orders of his evil overlords there. And at the end, when they suddenly execute him, I'm thinking, I didn't see that coming. When he's looking at the pilot, when you think Axel's almost gotten away, he's got the gold, and they're about to get on the plane, he just kind of casually looks behind Schutz, who just kind of bows down, and you're thinking, he doesn't. What's going on? Axel grabs his gun, just kind of takes aim and shoots Schutz. He just killed him, and I'm thinking, okay, all that's in his mind is, okay, one less guy to share the gold with. That's all that's in his mind. So he's all alone. He's going to have all the gold to himself, and that's all that was about. Of course, the pilot, played by Pekka Hutari, he died from getting shot up. So then it was going to be Axel with all that gold to himself. When he shot Schutz, I thought, man, I didn't see that coming, but I really should have, shouldn't I? Okay, let me finish this thought. There were two things in this movie that I was like, this is just too crazy. When he sucked the air out of that guy's neck and used that as replacement air under the water from his slit throat, I thought, okay, this movie just went to the next level, didn't it? But there was something else. When they hung him, and he used the sticking out rhubarb of the big signpost that they had hung him from, and he jammed it into the bullet hole in his leg to stabilize him and help him keep a little bit of a little bit of tension off of him from being hung, and so that he wouldn't like strangle to death fully, and he just kind of went to sleep in weakness. I thought, okay, it's a toss-up between the two things that are the most nuts in this movie: sucking the air out of him underwater, and then jamming that rhubarb into the bullet hole in his leg from while he was hung. I thought, this is crazy, this movie. But it wasn't enough. No, there's one more thing. After he rescues the women and he passes out the guns to them, and Anno has had her nice little dialogue moment when she talks about how you SSBITCHs are dead and you don't even know it. He'll never stop. He's like the Terminator. Don't you know the legend? Do you actually believe that? I thought for sure he's gonna like smack her or something and then die. No, he's just too freaked out. But shortly after that he died because Sisu killed him. At the end, after the women have casually raised the tarp off of the Jeep, the big transport truck that holds people, and just shot all of the Nazis just very casually as they're driving by. And after everybody's been picked off, two guys, the motorcycle soldiers, it's Sisu, that's who it is, it's not to me. They throw their guns away and run away. So two Nazis survived because they were literally not stupid unto death. They were willing to run away, and Sisu spared them. But then the women catch up with Wolf, who you get the idea that he might have violated one of them already, because I think he's pulling up his pants when you first meet him, and you first see the tank company there. But here we go. It's when that plane crashed. I'm thinking to myself, no, he didn't survive that. And if he did, it's official. I just watched a cartoon instead of a movie, because there's no way he was going to be surviving that plane crash. But he did. At least you get the explanation as he emerges from it's basically like a wetland, almost like a swamp. So I'm thinking to myself, he put that strap on him and he did that heavy brace for impact look, and it was pretty awesome. And like, okay, fine. He landed in the water, basically, in the sludge. Plus, he's basically immortal, so there is that too. I thought, man, this is crazy. So he was able to recover his gold. But the one thing I thought, this is some serious, like 80s old school action movie moments that I thought, the fight scene in the plane, I thought, this is really cool. The fight where he just keeps coming back and Axel just keeps hammering on him, and their gaze, like right before the fight, they had like a brief tussle, punching each other. You hear this sound effect like maybe he broke Zisu's jaw, and then the swing around camera angle where you see Zisu's eyes looking at him and Axel looking back at him, and Zisu's eyes and then Axel looking back at him. Like, that was a pretty good little thing there. And then their fight, I thought, this is a pretty good fight. And for him to end up whipping him as much as he did, I thought this was crazy. But the one thing I had against this fight scene at the end of the movie was the way it ended so abruptly. You can see, like, ahead of time, you can almost see it's like, okay, Zisu's going to kill this guy somehow, and it's going to have something to do with the bomb. This conventional, not like a bomb, this one bomb that can be dropped out of this plane. It's going to have something to do with that. And sure enough, that strap latch that Axel had wrapped around himself so that he could then whip Sisu with it, and he cut his face open with it, and he's whipping him, and he's like, why won't you die? Just whipping him. All of a sudden, Sisu grabs it, attaches it to the bomb, and releases the bomb. And I'm thinking, okay, that was pretty nuts. That was crazy. But
this is one more thing that I wish had been given just a few more seconds would have done it. A few more seconds to breathe, because all that happens as he's falling, as Axel looks up from the plane, he's just falling to. He's like, ah. Well, all he says, "F you." It's like you want to laugh when it should have been a little bit more of a serious moment to finally kill the bad guy. And as far, if there is the bad guy in this movie, it's Axel, because he was the commander who insisted on going after Sisu for the gold, and he really shouldn't have done that. It's like this hour and a half has led up to this moment where he's the last of the bad guys that have to be dispatched in order for our hero to survive and win the day. And none of the women died, and part of the and then they made it to like a safe zone and stuff. His dog didn't die. His horse died. And you see Sisu at one part of the movie early on where you're thinking to yourself, something in this man wants to do something besides just walking by on his horse on this road where people have been hung by the Nazis. You're thinking, he wants to do something, but what can he do? He's just one man. If the Nazis that he just passed along the road did that, can he go back and he try and fight him and kill him? What's he going to do? But he just kind of presses on. And it's still in this mode as you're watching him in the movie where it's like he's trying to get on with his life somehow, some way, and not get sucked back into the violence of the past, even though in his circumstances, when and where he is, it's all around him. It's all around him. It's like it'll never leave him. It's like it's what he lives. And so that's what happens throughout this whole movie. And then when Axel is falling from that plane, F you, and then the bomb goes off, I'm thinking, oh great, oh man. And that was all she wrote. No more Nazis, no more bad guys to fight off in this movie. And it's really beautiful. Again, the cinematography and how well it looks. The ending scene, it ends very much the way that it began, just with him just trying to get on with it. Whatever it is in his life, it's still very mysterious, but you've definitely connected with Atami or Atami by the end of this movie, Sisu, and you consider him a friend, in a way. He's a good guy. I guess that's all I got. Maybe if I can think of something more to say about this film later, maybe I'll add some more. That's usually the way I do it, but just in case I don't, thanks for listening to me, folks, and I do appreciate you very much. And until next time.